gentlemen, while we were going through that session, we had the honor of welcoming His Excellency, the former governor of Imo State, in the person of Senator Owele Rochas Okorocha. Please put your hands together for him. You are welcome, sir. Thank you. At this point, we are going to be going to the fourth panel. And the fourth panel is none other than the one that will be looking at very, very critical elements of the legacy of the celebrant. This is panel 4, and in panel 4, we have very, very important foot soldiers of that administration. We have already Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, who is online with us all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. We have Ambassador George Obuzu, who is live in the house with us. We have, of course, the former Minister for Education, my uncle, Professor Tunde Adeniro, is already in the house. And of course, we will be joined online also by Senator General Ikenwachukwu retired. He would also be joining us virtually. So we will have a few people that will be in the room with us physically. Ambassador George Obuzu and Professor Tunde Adeniro will be physically in the room with us. And then, of course, we would have Professor Bolaji Akinyemi and General Ikenwachukwu joining virtually from their location. And guess who is going to moderate that panel? One of my favorite broadcasters of all time, the very beautiful Mrs. Eugenia Abu of the NTA News at 9 fame. Please put your hands together for my big sister. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Can I have the technical people? Yes, yes, you can use that one. But we need to adjust the house. Yes, we need to. Just give me a moment. Yes, there are only 2 of you, so we'll take out. Yes, we'll take out. Yes. I said this before now. Quickly. Can camera be on me, not on screen? Camera on me. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Yes, it probably will be better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of live broadcast. Okay. Excellent. So, let me just hand over to you. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the 4th panel of the IBB Legacy Dialogue. It is time for us to commemorate and celebrate the former President, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, as he turns 80. And this particular panel is a very special one. But before we delve into what the title of the panel is, please permit me to welcome and greet the personalities that will be joining us today. I'd like to start with those that we can see who are joining us virtually before I invite those who are physically present here. Permit me to welcome the very distinguished Senator Ike Katsina Nwachukwu, a soldier and a gentleman, Nigeria's former Minister of Employment, Labor and Productivity. He was also Minister of Foreign Affairs, 1987 to 1989. And he was reappointed in 1990 and served until 1993. Chairman of the Liberty Committee of the OAU and three-term chairman of the ECOWAS States Council of Ministers. As a senator representing Abia State in the National Assembly, he was chair of several committees. The very distinguished Senator Ike Nwachukwu. It's good to see you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Did you hear me?
It's time for me now to introduce Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. Professor Bolaji Akinyemi is a professor of political science. He was External Affairs Minister from 1985 to late 1987. Cerebral and erudite, he's an academic and technocrat, visiting professor at the Graduate Institute at University of Nairobi, and one-time visiting professor also at the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva, lecturer at University of California, University of Lagos, and visiting fellow at the St. John's College, Cambridge, in England. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you very much, Virginia. Thank you for the invitation.
I'd like at this point to invite the President General of Ohaneze Ndigbo, Ambassador, Professor, a man of many parts, the very respected Professor George Obuzu, former Nigerian Ambassador to the United States of America, the State of Israel, Republic of Cyprus, Director General, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and advisor to multiple presidents, and member of the Presidential Advisory Committee 2014 conference by President Goodluck Jonathan, and he was also an advisor to the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Please help me give an Abuja welcome to Professor George Obuzu. Thank you, sir. I'm very pleased to be introducing the next gentleman who has served Nigeria in various positions. The very respected Professor Tunde Adeniro is a Nigerian scholar, politician, diplomat, and former Minister of Education. He served nationally and internationally and worked at the United Nations and also served as Nigeria's ambassador to Germany. Chairman of the Directorate for Social Mobilization, MAMSA, advisor on many national committees, and member of the Political Bureau, Professor Tunde Adeniro. Can we welcome him by encouraging him to his seat, please? Thank you. I have on this panel very cerebral gentlemen whose duty today in the discourse will be to look at Nigeria's foreign policy and Pan-Africanism under the era of our celebrant. So here is the format for panel 4. I'm going to be coming to the panelists, each and every one, for the initial time of 5 minutes. And when I direct the questions at them, I would expect that they would speak for 5 minutes only. And whatever else they need to say, they can say in the remaining 3 minutes that will be allocated to them after that. 2 3-minute slots will be allocated to them after the initial 5 minutes. This is to keep the panel very engaging and for us all to be able to follow through what they are going to be talking about. According to political and foreign policy scholars, Nigeria has been guided by a high sense of responsibility and not through selfish interest. Far beyond her borders, Nigeria, as Africa's most populous black country in the world, she is compelled to shoulder willingly and unwillingly the leadership of the black world. Against this background rose a man who placed premium on Nigeria's role as a power to be reckoned with. As president of Nigeria, President Babangida thrust Nigeria forward as a regional power and is credited with placing Nigeria in the forefront of African leadership with his many foreign policy thrusts. As a Pan-Africanist who believes in Pan-Africanism, ultimately, that belief showed as soon as he took position as president, and that belief is that all Africans should unite under one umbrella and should be celebrated in their unity. Former President Babangida is the architect of the Abuja Treaty, which led to the Africa Economic Summit. According to international relations scholar and historian Agohawa, writing in 2007, the nature of man compels everyone to interact and have mutual dependency. No matter who we are, we cannot survive in isolation. Therefore, we have tendencies to relate with each other locally, globally, and internationally. It is against this background that we examine Nigeria's foreign policy and Pan-Africanism under the era of a man whom we honor today as he turns 80. Permit me to start immediately in this conversation and intervention by going straight away to speak to the first person I'll be addressing will be the respected Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. Let me begin with you, sir. In President Babangida's foreign policy team, he leveraged on the men and women in the ivory towers. How would you describe the impact of this decision in his foreign policy direction?
Obviously, as someone said in a previous panel, men of ideas tend to create and enforce a vision that is already present not only in their thinking, but also in the thinking of whoever made the appointment. I mean, obviously, a president may not know you personally, but if he's conversant with your ideas and he thinks he can live with your ideas and your ideas are in sync with what he himself has in mind, it makes the appointment all that easy. I was at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs for 8 years. And during that time, I was aware of the presence of, he was first of all Lieutenant Colonel, then Full Colonel, then Brigadier. He always attended our public lectures. And even though I tried to get him to come and sit at the high table, he would simply go and sit at the back. He would drive himself to the venue. And this he did for the 8 years I was at the Institute. So obviously he was aware of what we were thinking about at the Institute. He was in sync with that. And therefore, when he then got into the seat of power, I suppose it was easy for him to then call upon me to come and help him direct the affairs of the Ministry of External Affairs. But let me quickly tell a little funny story. When my appointment was made, we had the British Foreign Minister already visiting Nigeria. Larry Cornwall was the acting foreign minister at that time. And he had invited me to the dinner in honor of the British foreign minister. I wasn't the foreign minister at that time. The appointment has not been made. So I accepted to attend to the dinner. And then the announcement came that I was going to be the minister. And the question then was, should I attend the dinner or not? I consulted with those I needed to talk to, and they agreed with me that I shouldn't, because I would have created an embarrassing situation for Larry Konya, who was the acting foreign minister. So I didn't go to the dinner, but I met the British foreign minister privately in the house of the permanent secretary. And I knew at that time what was expected of me.
A great relationship with members of the academia. We all know by looking at the team he put together. And in conversation with our celebrant at some point or the other, he did say that most of the persons that he brought in were, some of them, those he knew their quality already, and who were his friends because he had met them at places of interest, like you had rightly observed. And some of them were people he didn't know. Their credibility just brought them to the fore. Would like to thank Professor Akinyemi for illuminating that area of thought for us. And I'd like at this point to go to the respected Professor George Obuzu. You were a diplomat and academic. You have served as a diplomat across many countries in the world for Nigeria. You are also former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Excuse me. Tell us, what in his personality, what his type of person did for engaging foreign leaders, and how this led to real international and regional relations, and how Nigeria benefited?
First of all, I want to congratulate President Babangida on his 80th anniversary of his birthday. I want to actually most sincerely congratulate Her Excellency Aisha Babangida, a great daughter. You have done a great honor by getting this distinguished audience together to celebrate your wonderful father. In fact, under Babangida, the first thing you know is that president or head of state of any country is the chief diplomat. Is the country's chief diplomat. What makes a country great is the trinity of assessment of a country's military strategic position in the world. How far can you reach in defending yourself and your relatives and friends across the globe? The other is military diplomatic. Who are your friends in the world? Which countries in the world will catch cold when you cough? And the third is strong economic base and domestic political stability to push your idea in a world of competitive and controversial issues of national security, national prosperity, peace, honor, and prestige. The man, IBB, the first and most important thing about him is the inspiring style of leadership with this man. When you see IBB, you'll not be told that he's a leader. The inspiring confidence, in fact, in him, will enable you to assess him automatically as a committed leader. What can one say about President IBB? A man of great versatility, intellect, charisma, and great achievements. A leader who restored the confidence of citizens in a precarious country struggling to hold itself. President Babangida used his charisma of emotional intelligence to reattach Nigerians to the cause of nation building. The sheer force and energy of his captivating leadership qualities also caught the attention of the international community. Indeed, there's always a linkage between your own country, the perception of your country, and the way the world will look at you. In fact, as a nationalist, with inclusive attitude and approach to governance, he did not tolerate tribalism, ethnic or sectional sentiments. He had friends across the country, and I will say in ancient times, to know how powerful you are or how popular you are, you must have friends in anywhere you are going, on the road where you are going. If it becomes dark, do you have a place to stay until the morning so you can continue your journey? It meant then either you have in-laws on that road, or you have a friend. For IBB, he had friends every part of Nigeria. Anywhere he reached in the night, he can go to any friend that's there. He was a great man. Indeed, a great idea of what Nigeria and Nigeria stood for at the end of the Civil War. No victor, no conflict. For him, it was not a mere word. He was historically conscious of the fact that Nigeria, a country born in optimism, living generally in uncertainty, and seemingly a tragedy waiting to happen, needed leadership, and he provided it.
May I stop you there, Prof, for a second? I'll come back to you for us to expand on those conversations.
Wonderful.
But at this point, I would like to go very quickly to former Foreign Affairs Minister, distinguished Senator Ike Nwachukwu. I'd like to find out from you, sir, what was it that decided, that engagement that Nigeria decided to get involved in across the West African sub-region? As a consultant to ECOWAS at some point, I visited Sierra Leone, and we traveled in an ECOMOG vehicle. And at some of the persons by the roadside who were waving and cheering unnerved me a little bit, and I began to think, why are they greeting us like this? Until the ambassador said to me, anywhere ECOMOG goes, ECOMOG was able to rescue these countries, and we know that this engagement happened under the belt of our celebrant today. I'd like, therefore, to ask distinguished Senator Ike Nwachukwu to talk us through that ECOMOG engagement and what it meant for Nigeria's foreign policy.
In the manner that it was done now. The man IBB, we came on a long ways back as young officers, a teaching at the Nigerian Defense Academy. He, a company officer, and I as the adjutant of the academy. We learned a great deal about militarism whilst there, and we discussed and defined what Nigeria should be, what we can all do to salvage her and to prop her and to put her at the pedestal where she ought to be in African and world affairs. But so when the crisis in Liberia and Sierra Leone came on, and IBB was president of Nigeria, he made bold to commit to finding a solution to that problem. Of course, he got the president of Ghana, J.J. Rawlings, Iyadema of Togo, the president of Gambia, Jawara, and later on, Ahufa Buenya, to join in salvaging that country. He understood quite clearly, like we all did, that any major destabilization in Liberia and Sierra Leone will snowball into other parts of the country. And he also understood clearly that no other regional power would wish to come to our own part to salvage us, except we did ourselves. So he was in the forefront of ensuring that that happened. He then got ECOMOG going and assigned late Lieutenant General Dogon Yaro as force commander, having taken over from General Queen of Ghana when things were going properly there. And Dogon Yaro showed tremendous leadership. At that point, I've been appointed foreign minister, so I worked so closely with him in ensuring that the vision of Babangida to bring peace to our sub-region and to give honor to Nigeria and the black race, that we could deal with our own problems ourselves, we jointly pushed and in the end brought peace and sanity back to Liberia and back to Sierra Leone. It cost the country a lot of money and lives of our troops, but it was something that ought to have been done and was done properly well. And there's no how you can write the history of the crisis in Sierra Leone and in Liberia without giving General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida a thumbs up for great leadership, for courage, for understanding the politics of international relations, and for understanding so clearly that it's Nigeria and Nigeria alone, of course with support of others, that can salvage the image and the integrity of the black man anywhere in the world. And of course, from Liberia, he also ventured into other areas, Angola, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and all of this. Now, I don't know how much more time I've got, but it is interesting to note that Ibrahim Babangida wasn't afraid of ideas. It's been said before. He's prepared, he has the intellectual strength not to be afraid of other intellectuals around him. He was happiest when you could debate with him. And if you had a much better point than he has, he would tell you to go ahead and implement as you deem fit. But with one, that if it went well, he would take the credit, but if it didn't, he's prepared to relieve you. But he'll pray that that shouldn't be so. So that was Babangida, a man of tremendous understanding of world affairs, a man of tremendous understanding of what the black race should stand for, a man of great understanding of why Nigerian unity should be kept, a man who will not care about where you come from. All he would care about is who you are, what you can contribute to building a nation and a society. Thank you.
As a man who understood world affairs, and I'd like to return to you, distinguished Senator, sir. I'd like to find out from you in just 2 or 3 sentences to wrap up that conversation and that intervention you had. What would have been if ECOMOG did not exist for the West African sub-region, and particularly for Nigeria? In just 2 sentences, could you just look back and say, had ECOMOG not taken place within the foreign policy ideas of President Babangida, what could have been? You are also a general, so perhaps you might want to be able to illuminate us on that.
total disarray today. What is happening here in our country would be a child's play. Ibrahim Babangida, a man of vision, a man of courage, has shown it many, many times on the battlefield, stopping coups, stepping out to be counted when it's important, helped to ensure that West African sub-region remains safe. Today there's trade, there's development, there's peace, there's understanding, and the West African sub-region cannot be set aside anymore.
I'd like to come to Professor Tunde Adeniro. Nigeria is considered a medium power, and this position is enough to alienate our African brothers because already they have been dumbed down by imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism. It would be nice to hear you give us an insight into the foreign policy thrust that the former president used to bring his brothers into the fold and prevent that alienation thought that runs through the minds of smaller countries when they envision Nigeria and the power in which is vested in Nigeria as Africa's most populous nation.
One of the things that one could get out of his initial statements when he took over was the fact that he was bothered, very worried about the fact that there are some policy inconsistencies. They could no longer trust us, particularly our brothers, our neighbors, and he felt that something really had to be done about it. He did not just bump on them with the policies, foreign policies of Nigeria. He started by reassuring them that indeed we are their brothers. At that time, if we could go back, we will recall that the borders were closed between us and our other neighbors. There was embargo. And of course, the regime that was before him was sending away Africans from Nigeria. And he took over against that background, and he realized what had to be done. He took Africa as one, and of course, those in the West African sub-region as members of the same family, sort of. So by reassuring them, by taking certain steps to guarantee their security economically, bringing them to appreciate the fact that Nigeria can be trusted, some of the policies that he now initiated became easy to be implemented. One, we could recall that in 1986-87, he was chairman of ECOWAS. And during that period, he treated them the way they should be treated, as members of the same community. Moving on from there, 1991, he became the OAU chairman. Of course, it was an extension of what he was doing before. He took Africa with seriousness. It was not following what was before, because he was able to assert himself on certain things to reassure them that indeed Nigeria will be whatever Nigeria promises to be, a big brother sort of, and that Nigeria could be trusted. He stood on that, and by matching action with words, there was no way anyone could have had any wrong opinion or to disbelieve him that indeed he did not mean well for them. So he cultivated them and their trust, their confidence, and their cooperation.
He cultivated them. Indeed, that tells us the sort of foreign policy ideas that he was working with, and the fact that he assured other West African and African states of Nigeria's position in supporting them and carrying them along was one of the reasons for which that was such a robust foreign policy period in Nigeria's history. I'd like to return to you, Professor George Obuzu. I'd like to find out from you, how did our celebrant, the very respected former president, use cultural diplomacy as a tool for international relations, seeing how very rich Nigeria's culture is, and seeing how much of a Pan-Africanist he was.
In fact, President Babangida era, in terms of foreign policy, made Nigeria the essential country in Africa and the country that you cannot overlook its views in Africa. In other words, as Jeremiah said, it was inconceivable that peace in Africa can be done or concluded by any other group, including the international community, without Nigerian contribution. Nigeria took Africa since the First Republic as a priority. So Pan-Africanism was born with Nigeria and actually baptized on October 7th by the wonderful speech of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, who was at that time also acting as Foreign Minister of Nigeria until he judged Awachukwu. What is important is that Nigeria being leadership position, being in leadership position in Africa, will have no meaning, whether to Africans or to the world, unless Nigeria carried them along. It is indeed that involvement, intensity of that involvement, that made African countries rely intensely on Nigerian contributions. In fact, it can be argued, but the reality is there, that without Nigerian contributions, whether West African peace or African liberation in general, particularly in South Africa, would have gone as fast or successful. We saw that in the speeches of Nelson Mandela, the gratitude of South Africans under him. What is important is that the Nigerian foreign policy has generally been consistent. What is the difference is the leadership style at any time. And under Babangida, things became like Babangida himself. Active, active, active. Here is a man who will carry the international community the same way he carried the Nigerians, with emotion and mission. He was a very conspicuous leader. That is extremely important. This leader had named recognition of most of the leaders of the world. And my first job with him was as a special assistant on international affairs. I remember the speeches that President Babangida made in OAU, Addis Ababa, 25th anniversary of OAU in 1988. That was when Nigeria's leadership was seriously confirmed. I remember the president's speech in the UN. And that day too, Nigeria leadership in Africa was considered. What is important for us to do is to learn some lessons from this great leader, because during his time, it was the second time Nigeria was in highest peak in foreign policy and international relations. In fact, the world recognition was unbelievably enthusiastic about the future of Nigeria and the role of Nigeria when Balewa came to the world, when Nigeria was born, and Balewa was giving the maiden speech, as I mentioned, in October 7th at the UN. During that period, the world knew Nigeria and admired Nigeria. The next highlight of Nigerian foreign policy will come under IBB. And definitely the third phase was under Obasanjo. If you look at it, not just substance, but style matters in international relations. In international relations, in diplomacy, perception comes before reality. And that is very important. How a country regards your leader matters how they regard the country. If Ataturk, the creator of modern Turkey, nobody can treat your leader with his disdain unlike his country. Leadership, as I want to tell you, whether it's on domestic or foreign policy, matters a lot. And you must keep leadership going by being dynamic and doing something. Leadership is earned, not inherited. And IBB worked as a leader, and African leaders recognize him as that.
I want to thank you, Professor George Obiozor. You have spoken well. As always, you have been quite robust in your contributions. I'd like to return to Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. The good professor, sir, Nigeria's relationship with multinational and multilateral organizations suggests that during the IBB era and going forward, Nigerians were placed in very important positions across the world. Nigerians were expected to seek for positions, and Nigeria always was supported to attain those positions in multilateral organizations. In addition to which, I'd like to ask you, being a two-pronged question, to quickly give us that intervention in 3 minutes, if you can. How did we relate with the multilateral agencies and the big multilateral organizations across the world at this time?
I will simply build on what my friend Professor Obiozor has said. If your president shows an interest in foreign affairs and he was prepared to back that up with action and resources, then whatever posts you are interested in, provided they are zoned to Africa, you will get it. It is a spin-off of your leadership role, because you must first of all get the West African sub-region to endorse your candidate, then the OAU, and that's what it was called at that time, to endorse your candidate, and the United Nations will simply put a stamp of approval on your candidate. And it was successfully done throughout the period that we are talking about. There is a little amendment I would like to make to what Professor Obiozor has said. The time of Murtala Mohammed must also be regarded as one of the activist periods of our foreign policy. So that he's talked about a 3-phase, maybe we will now say it's a 4-phase period that we have of our active foreign policy posture. But we have, I just wish that President Babangida would have visited more countries in the world to back up his interest and Nigerian interests. He tended to stay at home and leave the visits to his foreign ministers, as General Ikechukwu will confirm. I think his visibility, not only on the African continent, but in the world, would have been enhanced by he traveling more around the world than he actually did. But we had a successful run in terms of the foreign policy goals. The looking into the future was what he also did, because we knew by that time that the anti-apartheid struggle was going to be over, and Nigeria needed to develop a new concept of foreign policy for the future. And this was where then the concept of the concert of medium powers came in. This was also why we designed the technical aid corps scheme that will establish a Nigerian presence in low-income and medium-income countries. It was part of designing a post-apartheid foreign policy foreign policy for Nigeria, and that is still work in progress that I hope will be built upon.
I thank you, sir. I thank you most sincerely. I'd like to come to you, Professor Adeniro, for your last intervention before we do our 1-minute roundups. You were chairman of MAMSA. You understood that it was important that Nigeria's position internally was in a place where other nations gaze upon it, made things more exciting in the foreign front. What would you say MAMSA did in terms of situating Nigeria across the world as a nation to be watched?
What MAMSA did at that time derived from the policy, the vision of IBB, which was, he set up, first of all, the political bureau. MAMSA was a product of the political bureau, and it came out of the ingenuity, the man, visionary, a genius indeed. They stay in the consistency. By the time the political bureau made that recommendation, he took out MAMSA out of it and wanted the people of Nigeria to be mobilized so as to support the developmental strides that he was intending to make happen within the domestic environment. Because he could see then that the relationship between the domestic and the foreign policy has to be asserted. There is no way you can succeed externally if you do not succeed domestically. So while people are being mobilized here, he was also reaching out. What MAMSA did in summary is that looking at what the man was trying to do, not just the body language or the speeches he was making, we realized that through the briefing and the debriefing that we got, we knew where he was going, and we thought that it would be necessary for us to achieve 3 things. One, to ensure that Nigerians are properly mobilized. If you do not sensitize them and educate them about their rights and responsibilities and what had to be done to make sure that the country is what it should be, we will not get anywhere. The second is that the regime in power at that time, that is IBB, he had a vision and a mission. And we had to locate this within that framework. And of course, because he knew very well the para-pyramids of actors modulating the Nigerian political process, he could relate with us to also link up with some of those people and the forces that we were able to get to support that mission. And in projecting to the future, we knew what we did at that time would lead somewhere by linking up, liaising with the foreign agents and the embassies and so on, and of course, the diaspora, which has now become institutionalized. It actually took root at that time, linking up with Nigerians to appreciate that indeed they really need to serve as our ambassadors, Nigerian ambassadors. Whatever they do there will be more important in some areas Why did we not even have physical representation? And we drove that to ensure that, indeed, we use that as part of what we were doing. And, of course, we didn't travel out, going around, to mobilize Nigerians there, but we used our instruments to reach them, some of what we did at that time. And finally, if I may just say this, in the totality of what we were aiming at is not just to get Nigerians mobilized to be able to play their roles locally and so on, but to earn respectability.
Our father, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, no, that's Shonekong. That is our Chief Ernest Shonekong. I can see the youngest of them all, President Jonathan Ebele Goodluck. I can see our Vice President, Architect Namadi Sambo, and obviously, I can see General Abdul Salam, who was here earlier on today. Are they supposed to be talking? Okay. So may I invite now Architect Namadi Sambo, former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It is with gratitude millions of friends and well-wishers and my bosses to deliver a few remarks on leader and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. 80 years today. 80 years is indeed a momentous milestone in the life of a man, especially one that has made significant marks of this great nation. As we may all recall, since Nigeria's independence in 1960, IBB, as he is fondly called, remains one of the very few Nigerians that got the privilege to serve his fatherland. He did this with undisputed patriotism and sacrifice. He served as Nigeria's president for 8 years. His influence transcended the African continent and beyond. The legacy of General Babangida are too numerous to be mentioned in a forum like this today. Nevertheless, some of the outstanding legacies of His Excellency include laying the foundation for the development and stability of Nigeria, particularly as he came into power during an uncertain time. In those 8 years that he led this great nation, Nigeria witnessed an unprecedented infrastructural development across the country. He created additional 11 states and 136 local government areas to give the diverse people of Nigeria a sense of belonging. Nigeria witnessed rapid economic growth during his time in office as healthcare system was revolutionized with institution of primary healthcare system across the country. There was relative peace and stability that attracted international investors into Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, let me use this opportunity to once again condole with His Excellency and the entire family over the loss of our former First Lady and our mother, Badamasi Babangida, whose contributions to the success of IBB administration cannot be measured. Our pet project, Better Life for Rural Women, remains one of the most strategic and effective programs ever conceived to address the ordeals of rural women. Hitherto, neglected women in our country were empowered, inspired, and given a sense of purpose. May Allah forgive her shortcomings and grant her Al-Jannah Firdaus. Amen. Your Excellency, Your Excellency, as you celebrate this milestone, we pray that Almighty Allah will continue to protect and guide you, granting you many more years of happiness, good health, and success. We look forward to celebrating many more joyful years with you, our leader, our elder, and our father. On behalf of myself, my family, and my associates, I congratulate Your Excellency on this historic occasion. Happy 80th birthday, the youngest Octogenarian that I know. Congratulations, Islam.
Thank you very much, Architect. We'll now come to Chief Ernest Shonekon.
When you celebrating your 80th birthday, let me please join you in thanking God for forgiving. It's been a long journey, but thank God that you almost arrived at the destination. Because you cannot live another 80 years. I'm particularly happy with the achievement of it. And I don't want to put it there. Because it's a clear to the only leader in the country was going on that very day. Nevertheless, the Lord continue to guide them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Chief Ernest Shonekon. It is my honor and pleasure to now invite General Salam Abubakar to graciously give us his goodwill message. Is someone there? Okay. Goodwill message from General Abdul Salam.
Your Excellency, I hope you can hear me. I was off the line for some time now. Chief, can you hear me?
We can hear you very clearly, Your Excellency.
I can hear you properly.
Right. Okay, let me wish my brother, my friend, my commander-in-chief, my head boy, my prefect, all the best as he celebrates his 80th birthday. I wish you continued good health, Allah's guidance, and all the best. Many happier returns. I really am happy to be associated with you. 79 years we have been together, and I hope we'll have many more years to live together in good health. Congratulations and many happier returns. Thank you.
Your Excellency, shall we quickly have now the youngest of them, President Goodluck Jonathan?
Hi, Chief. Thank you so much. Good evening to all the participants, Your Excellencies, those who are listening to this program. It's been a pleasure for me and quite interesting to be listening to different comments and testimonies from people since morning about the life, the times, and the legacies of President Babangida. President Babangida is celebrating his 80th birthday on Tuesday, 17th of August. And so many people are making comments. Clearly, President Babangida has lived a very eventful life. As a decorated military officer, he is a patriot and a political leader. In his military career, he was a key factor in uniting this country. He fought the Civil War, he sustained injuries, and injury during wartime depends on the part of the body that you received the bullet, could have died in the process. From there, he became the head of state. So you see clearly that he has paid his dues in terms of the unity of this country, bringing this country together. As a military head president, one thing about Babangida is that he recruited some of our best brains as members of his cabinet. And I've been listening to some of them, some of their comments. And we know that as at that time, even now, Babangida's team were among the best. And they did very well. He was also known as somebody who was detribalized. And people give credit to him. And that's why up to date, he has friends across the entire length and breadth of Nigeria. He did very well. His ministers have already spoken, so I wouldn't want to bore you. In terms of the economy, in terms of our foreign relations, and internal security, he did very well. And Babangida is a good and solid political leader. He left office about 28 years ago as a president. But if today, anybody who is aspiring to hold a very high office, political office in this country, will go to Mina Hilltop. Somebody who left office 28 years ago as the military president. It shows his level of sagacity, the way he has friends, his willingness to help, his willingness to carry people along. And he's still one of our leaders today that the traffic to his house is quite tense. I visited Babangida several times from the time I was interested in becoming a president, when I was serving as a president, and even after leaving office. And I can attest to the fact that he's loved and liked by people. This doesn't happen by accident. It's because of his nature, his human relationship, and how he sees the country, the whole country, as his own constituency. Today is a special day. Myself, my wife, and my family, we wish President Babangida and his family, his friends, and well-wishers, and his fans, a glorious 80th birthday celebration. We want you to live more so that you continue to mentor the young ones. We believe that God will continue to give you more life and the vigor and energy to continue to impact positively on our society. I thank you all.
Your Excellencies, my colleagues, all that are here, at this, get together to wish President Ibrahim Babangida a happy 80th birthday. I'm delighted that his able daughter, Aisha, was able to organize this seminar in order to celebrate her father's birthday, 80th birthday. And she organized this session to deal with various aspects of Babangida's activities and life. And I think we've all heard the various statements that have been made by various people, at this session. And the last one, of course, by, President. By President.
Goodluck, Jonathan.
Yes, sorry, I think. Okay. Now, mine is to say that I knew Babangida from way back to 1974, 73, 74, when I visited the Bida Secondary School to talk to the Form 6 boys at that school to try to encourage them to join the army. And as I understand, he was head boy at that time, and about 10 of them from that school later on joined the army. After that visit. And of course, he did exceptionally well at his various training programs. And of course, he then, when he became an officer, he served very loyally. He served, with greater, passion, and did very well during the Civil War, leading his men into the fight in order to keep Nigeria one. And I remembered a lot of times when my younger brother returned from the front line, he would tell me of their commander, Ibrahim Babangida, a very courageous soldier, a great leader. He led in the front, and he did exceptionally well. I was so impressed by this particular young officer that my younger brother, late younger brother, Captain Isaiah Gowan, told me about. And, I thought that young man certainly should be my ADC. But of course, events after that, made it impossible for him to be my ADC. It seemed as though it was an omen for him, an omen of things, to come, that he will not only be, a general, but also a commander-in-chief and head of state, of Nigeria, virtually taking over my previous, post. Now, that is Father Ibrahim Babangida that I remember. And of course, we've heard how well he's done in various areas of life, in politics, as a president, in foreign affairs. We've had the glowing report by those who acted either as foreign ministers or ambassadors during his reign. He did exceptionally well, and in politics, of course, he did so well that I think in the end he was called a Maradona of Nigerian politics at that time. Certainly, I'm glad that in fact it was Maradona that was named, that he was not named Messi. Otherwise, it would have been a terrible accolade. And so he did exceptionally well. And I know that his option A4, he drafted me, in that in that particular program, for the NRC, and of course, I know I did not make it, beyond, the preliminaries, of the election, and so, one can say that Ibrahim had done exceptionally well throughout his life. And as president, he certainly gave the country, quite a lot of, good, ideas to make, for Nigeria to make progress, for Nigeria to continue the oneness that is required of it. So I would like to say, really, Ibrahim Babangida, we're all very proud of you. You've done very well in your life, and you've succeeded in being certainly somebody that should be remembered, that that should be, that something should be created in memory, of him, of you. So I would like, to end by saying my congratulations on your 80th birthday. I welcome you to the club of the 80s, of those of the 80s, and to wish you many, many happy returns. My wife, Victoria, I wish you especially a special, good wishes for your 80th birthday. And the family join, in also wishing you a happy, birthday. Many returns, many, many happy returns. Start to sing happy birthday to General Ibrahim Babangida. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear General. Happy birthday to you. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Hip, hip, hip. 80 times. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies.
General Gawan, how are you, sir? Nice to see you.
Thank you very much, General.
How is the weather over there?
Well, you know the English weather, what it is. Warm today, cold tomorrow, snow the next day, but however, it is reasonable.
Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself and come back safely.
Don't you worry, we'll be back as soon as possible.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Sir Shoneka, how are you, sir?
You just jump in. Let them go.
The Maradona himself, how are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Happy return.
Thank you.
It's a pity you will not be able to climb and bring mangoes down as you used to do. Well done.
Thank you, the chairman of the occasion, High Chief Raymond Dombes, my senior colleague, General John Lawan, my colleagues, Ebele Jonathan, President, Ernest Shonekon, Head of State, my younger brother, General Abubakar, the President of the Senate, my good friend and brother, Abdul, my very good colleagues that we serve this country together. I want to pay my special gratitude to all of you who have time to come to attend this. Before, my job is easy, it's a vote of thanks. But I will probably tell you two stories because a lot of you said stories. The first one has to do with General Gawan himself. In 1959, it was, I'm talking of about 72 years. He visited our school and he had a teacher. His teacher was also my teacher, somebody called Onimole. And he was recruiting the younger generation to go into the Nigerian army. So Mr. Onimole introduced him. He said, boys, this is Yakubu Gawan. He was my student. And he was a good student. He does his homework, and when he does it well. Yakubu Gawan, as usual, very smartly dressed, and every one of us wanted to be like Jack Don. So, my dear sir, you have been very inspirational to me as a person. That's story number one. Story number two, during the war, I got hit and I was in the hospital, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, being taken care of by one Professor Elebute, a very good man, a very profound professor of not medicine, he was a specialist. He's a surgeon, he was a surgeon. At that period, General Gawan was getting married, I believe, to my good sister. And in the hospital bed, I was saying I wanted to get married just like General Gawan did. And by God, followed the system meticulously, and this is what I was looking forward to. When I got out of the hospital, the first thing I did was to start thinking of getting married. Again, my inspiration was I want to thank you, sir, because I made a good choice. And then the other story I wanted you in this public, in this gathering to share with me. My friend David Mack, two events happened during the course of our service in the country. Somebody, typical Nigerian 419, called David Mack. And the first thing, he addressed David as David. Suddenly, David decided that this man must be 419. He couldn't have been Babangida. Because I always call David Oga David. So he abandoned, he just dropped the telephone. Later he told me the story. I said, I'm glad you know this. But one of the most important things he did to me, he came to my house during the after some 28 years ago when I left office. He said to me, I said, yes, Oga David. He said, I have come to give you one advice. So I was listening to Oga David. Oga David said, you have no regret, you shouldn't have any regrets for serving this country. You have served this country very well. He was worried about the media frenzy about this man called Babangida. What he told the country, and they should do the same. They should emulate you. They shouldn't be afraid whether they abused you publicly or whatever. Tell them that you have served this country and you served this country diligently and you want them to do the same. I was very, very touched by what David Mark told me, and I took his advice very, very seriously. Anytime they read anything wrong about me, they come to me to talk to me. So and so said this. Is it true? I will tell them, no, it's not true. And as much as possible, I was able to tell them the true picture, the true story. So, Oga David, thank you very much for the advice, because that has helped me in my life and with my relationship with my children. Once more, thank you very much indeed. I want to convey my gratitude to all of you who have found time to be here today, and to thank you immensely. I took time, even though not very well, but I listened to each and every session. And what kept on coming to my mind when you were talking was that I made the right choice of patriots whom I believe with whom we could work together for the sake of this country. You have all worked for this country, and you have worked very well. And this country has every reason to be very proud of each and every one of you. We found ourselves serving a country for the benefit of future generations, and you did well, very, very well. I want to publicly acknowledge the role that each and every one of you played during the course of our administration. I can't thank you enough. I say thank you very much. And for my older colleague, General Gawan, please convey my best wishes to your very dear wife. She has been inspirational to my wife. My wife has always talked very well about her. So convey our best wishes to her also. Once more, thank you very much.
Okay.
Your Excellencies, the birthday young man at 80, we all here join in congratulating you once again.
Let me now invite Mr. Kazima Febwa for the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MC Saji. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me, on behalf of the family of His Excellency General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, thank you all for coming to grace this occasion and share your very lofty time with us. From 10 a.m. till now, only IBB can actually enjoy such phenomenal time from people who are exceptionally busy pursuing their daily endeavors. Let me thank specially the former presidents, General Yakubu Gowon, Dr. Goodluck Ibele Jonathan, Chief Ernest Shonekon, Vice President Namadi Sambo, and General Olusegun Aremu Okikiola Matthew Obasanjo, who actually tried to connect with us, but were unable to get his audio. Let me thank specially the man that has many parts. The chairman of today's occasion is one Nigerian that believes so much in the unity of this country. Is one Nigerian who appreciates humanity and is ever ready to go the whole hog to ensure that this country enjoys some level of unity in diversity. I'm talking of no other person than engineer, Dr. Anthony Aleogo Raymond Dokwesi, the Ezomo of the universe. We call him the Ezomo of the universe because he's a respected chief in our part of the country of Edo State. He has kept us on our toes and also offer us generously live coverage of this event from 10 a.m. till now. Please give him a round of applause again, please.